Welcome to the Leaderonomics show. Today we have Dr. Serkan Toto with us from Japan. Welcome, Serkan, to the show. Tell us a bit about background. I know you work for you write for TechCrunch, one of the biggest tech magazines out here. You also are a consultant for a private equity and helping folks in terms of startups. What's your passion?
Well, that's true. So I do basically I do two things. I work part-time. I work for TechCrunch, which is one of the biggest technology blogs out there, and full-time I work as a consultant for private equity companies, hedge funds, venture capital companies, mostly in America and in Europe. And what I'm passionate about is basically everything cool that comes out of the web and mobile space. Okay. You know, it's basically in one word, technology.
Okay. What specifically about technology that excites you?
I like seeing innovative stuff, okay, which innovative mobile services, innovative web services, right, and my personal penchant is robotics. Okay. But that's mostly I'm not writing about it, right? I'm not advising about it, but it's just my.
So what do you write about?
I write about anything that happens in Asia, in the mobile and the web industry.
Okay. So and what are some insights that you gain when you write? In terms of, I mean, is there specifically? I know you've been in Japan for many years now, mm-hmm, but is there specific things that are happening in Japan, insights that you picked up?
I think there are quite a few things happening not only in Japan but in Asia as a whole.
Yeah, sure.
It's 5 things that I've identified in the last year. It's online gaming is huge. So you have 10 Chinese gaming companies listed at the New York Stock Exchange. Okay. You have virtual goods in games. For example, if you want to have a better, right, weapon, you can buy it. So that's those 2 things came out of Asia. Mm-hmm. And the third thing is the mobile web, which is huge now everywhere. Right. It's also basically invented in Japan. Yeah. The fourth thing is the convergence of the internet with hardware. For example, internet-enabled TVs are now on sale in Japan everywhere, okay, or internet-enabled car navigation systems. So you see what I mean is you see the web getting into our lives more and more through hardware, yep, through everyday hardware. And the fifth thing is that where Asia really has an edge is mobile and internet infrastructure, especially Korea and Japan.
Yeah. But I mean, Korea and Japan seem to be an outlier, right?
Yes.
Relative to the rest of Asia, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think the rest of Asia is going to catch up?
I definitely think so. And what's interesting about places, for example, like Malaysia or Indonesia, is that these places are leapfrogging certain developments in Japan, Korea, but also in America and in Europe by adopting the mobile web. Directly, yeah, right? So they're directly going to smartphones, right, to wireless connections, and they're saying, okay, if we don't have broadband, so what?
So you don't have to build a whole infrastructure.
Exactly. Right?
Okay.
So everybody's accessing the web and other services through their mobiles.
Yeah, and this is also happening in India and China?
Yes. Yes. So it's basically, I mean, you have hundreds of millions of handsets in circulation in China and in India, right? So actually, nobody cares about fixed line web anymore, right? And about fixed line services. And the interesting thing is the same thing happens in America too, and in Europe too. So you're basically leveling the playfield. Okay.
Okay. Now, it's interesting when you look at startups in Asia, mm-hmm, relative to startups in the Western world. Mm-hmm. There seems to be less startups that in Asia that think global and become global. Like the Googles and the Yahoo. Mm-hmm. Do you know why?
In the case of China and Japan, the problem is that the local markets are big enough, okay, for entrepreneurs, right?
So they just keep focused on the...
Exactly. Okay.
So
they don't care about...
But even in Southeast Asia, where you have smaller markets, you don't seem to see many big players that come out, right?
Yes, I mean it's very, very hard because I think it's not just Asia, it's also Europe, right? I mean, if I ask you, name me one European web service or mobile service that you use, right? I mean, I think you can't even name me one, because the Googles and the MySpaces, the Facebooks, the Twitters, all in the US.
So
right?
Is it something to do with infrastructure, or?
I don't think it's necessarily infrastructure. It's basically...
It's a mindset thing?
Yeah, it's a mindset thing. And if you want to go global, I think you have to be in Silicon Valley. Mm. That's what I personally think.
And you're very interesting because you're from Germany, right?
Yes.
And you came out to Japan.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Well, I was a huge geek when I was in high school. I was a huge video game geek, manga geek, anime geek, robotics geek.
So Japan was the place to be.
Yes. So it was just a natural thing. Yeah.
And you went to Japan to do your PhD, right?
Yes.
And what are you doing a PhD on?
That was in economics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in economics.
Economics, yeah.
So you got economics and the web. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that how you became a consultant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
when you're a consultant, you look at companies, put and advise investment banks and so on, whether to pick companies and all, somewhat, right?
Yes, I mean those companies are mostly interested in listed companies and listed web industry companies that are listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange.
What do you look for in those companies?
My clients are mostly interested in who the winners and the losers are.
Right. And so how do you pick the winners from the losers?
You have to live in the country, right? You basically try to gauge who's winning mindshare, who's losing mindshare, and you look at a few numbers and you mix it with your personal perception. I can give an insightful comment on things because I'm based in Japan and I'm part of the tech scene, right? So I'm not sitting somewhere at a desk in New York and trying to size up markets that I don't know.
So you use a lot more intuition for this.
Yeah, it's basically a mixture between intuition and pure analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the analytics? I mean, do you look at the people in the startups, or
yes.
is that a key factor?
Yes. I mean, so those investment banks. I mean, they
look at numbers.
Yeah, they look at numbers. They have their numbers.
Right.
You can basically contact all those startups without any problem. But the problem is that they don't know what's going on inside, right? So they don't know the management team. I'm fortunate to know the management team of many listed, basically of almost every listed web industry company or mobile company in that country, because I'm just a
You're
part
there.
of, yeah.
So is the
there.
management team important, a criteria in terms of why they win and why they lose?
Yes.
So what specific? I mean, there are certain traits that you see in the management team.
Yes, I mean, most of the good management of the good guys in management is, in my view, are the aggressive types, right? I mean, all the if
aggressive Japanese types.
Yes, it's hard, right? It's a good question, right? And it's a good question because Japanese people like try to be a little bit
more
shyer
polite
and like more modest.
Yep.
But if you have like those outliers, right, you can be pretty successful in Japan because entrepreneurship in Japan isn't like at a really high level. So if you're aggressive, and if you really want to scale your company, you can become very successful. And the ones that are who are successful are like that.
Yeah. So when you say aggressive, what you're saying is leadership, right?
Yes.
They exemplify, leadership and their followership and so on.
Yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that not all, but most of those super successful web industry and mobile entrepreneurs were educated in the US. So they have this like Harvard Business School mindset, and here I come, and they speak English fluently, and
that's important to be global, right?
I think not only to be global, but I think that leadership is really taught well in the U.S., right? But not so much in Japan or in Asia as a whole, where harmony plays a much bigger role, right? And where you don't want to be the nail that sticks out and it has to be hammered in, right? So yeah.
So that may be a factor, right? Why there are less startups who are successful?
Absolutely.
The whole leadership,
absolutely,
and the education system.
Yes, absolutely.
Potentially. How is it in Europe? I mean, is it the same in Europe?
I think Europe is somewhere in between. So if I look at Germany, for example, it's somewhere between Asia and America. Okay. So yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of pieces of advice. If I'm a college student, I'm just graduating, and I'm coming out to the workplace, whether it's a startup or in a company, what advice would you give me to be successful?
If I were like that, I would just try to go to a company which I think is cool, right? Whether it be a startup or a bigger company like Google or Sony or whatever, which I would go to such a company, which I think has some stuff that really interests me. And
so go work for a company, learn as much as you can.
Yes.
Before you even start up something.
Yes, and I wouldn't go for a high salary or a big status or anything, but go for a company where I think I can learn a lot for myself in a specific period of time.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you've looked at many management teams. If I'm CEO of a company, what advice would you give me? If I'm trying to grow my company and make it big.
Be aggressive as aggressive as possible. I think it's my personal perception in the last few years.
Right. This is specifically about Asia, right?
Yes. So just try not to be too modest and just go for it.
Yeah. Okay. And if I were hiring someone, is there specific characteristics I should be looking for?
It obviously depends on the company, but again, I would just look for the aggressive types, for the aggressive types, and Yeah, that would be a very, very important trait for me. Yeah.
Now, final questions. Technology is misunderstood many times, especially in its usage for business. What advice would you give business people in terms of usage of technology and understanding it and leveraging it?
I think a lot of businesses still need a lot of education, especially in the web field, in social media. Yeah. Just go to someone who knows what he's talking about, and ask for advice. Okay. But try to leverage the web, especially because it's a very, very cost-effective and cost-effective way to grow your business for most businesses, at least.
Well, Serkan, thank you so much for being on the show. We have Serkan Toto here on the Leaderonomics show.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.